Here we are. Hello, hello. We are the TransPositions. Good evening. It is Thursday, March 6th, and the shitstorm keeps on swirling, as we say.
It's a classic hit.
Yes. Not much to be done about it, but keep reporting on it. And that's a flute for the right-handed Sith, if they were wanting to know about the intro song. It's a flute. How is everybody doing today? How was everybody's day?
Let's start so tired.
We're sucking.
Not great. I had over last weekend. I had a hard drive crash, and I've been trying to rebuild my computer ever since.
Mm-hmm.
It's been all sorts of fun.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, it's good to see y'all's faces though every week. I tell you, I think this is the first time we've all four been here at the start of the show in a little while. So thank you so much. Today was I'm not going to go on about it too much. I switched jobs recently, so I started training for this new job down here, and it's taking a lot out of me. So I might be a little exhausted as the day goes on, as the evening goes on, and as we dig through what we're about to dig through. So I mean, let's be prepared. All right. Anything you all want to talk about real quick, or anything before I jump into our first story for the day?
Oh, there's so much stuff. I don't know specifically what stories you have in mind, but there's a thing that I went on a little tear on yesterday. Shoot, let me look up the thing so I get the name right. Sydney, Australia, Woman of the Year happens to be a trans woman, and people are losing their fucking minds over it, as you might expect, because people are fucking crazy lately. Brianna Skinner. So this woman, she spent a decade working with the New South Wales government to enact gender equality reforms. She raised thousands for veterans in need, and was made the subject of a documentary for doing that. They made a movie about this woman, and during those stabbing attacks they had a couple of years ago, the Bondi Junction attacks, she saved 40 people's lives. But nobody's paying any attention to that because they can't get past, they refuse to see past the adjective in front of woman. None of it matters because she said it's because she's a trans woman. And that just pisses me the fuck off. So that's my mini rant for the start of the show. Hello, everyone.
Right. Hello. It's good to see you all. Welcome to the TransPositions. No, the thing I wanted to cover, and just Steph just brought this to my attention. It's probably been a couple of years since anybody's heard this name at all, but it'll bring a little bit of a smile to some faces to hear this short little piece about one Kim Johnson, the Kim Davis, Davis, not Johnson.
Oh yes,
yeah, Davis. Louisville, Kentucky, former Rowan County clerk Kim Davis lost her appeal at the U.S. 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, with all three judges ruling against her. That means she'll have to pay more than $350,000 to the couple for which she refused to issue a same-sex marriage license. This case goes back almost a decade, as the couple tried to get married in 2015. It's been previously reported that Davis's attorney, her attorneys, plural, hope her case reaches the U.S. Supreme Court. Her lawyer with the Liberty Counsel has said the court decision, which allowed same-sex couples to marry, should be overturned. All right, so remember how all this time we've been like, it's not over for gay people, for all these gays against groomers for anti-trans people and stuff that have been. You're not off the chopping block, my dude. Just because you're helping them pull the rest of us up onto the chopping block with you doesn't mean that you're exempt. The leopards will eat your face. The Liberty Council will eat your fucking face. Okay? Let's not even parse words about it. Let's not or mince words about it. Let's not even pretend that this isn't a serious situation trying to get this up to the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Because when things get up to the Supreme Court, when we have a Supreme Court stacked the way it is, it can be a bit problematic. But I don't know if this will ever see the Supreme Court. I think it's going to keep getting shot down every time they appeal it.
I don't see any reason they'd take this case because it's such old news. It won't give them any gravitas. They might get a little bit of press attention because everyone loves to hate on Davis, but there's no statute to set,
I think
the
idea is to appeal to the current political climate and try to get things back in their court. Go on, Steph.
The thing is, Thomas made it clear that he wanted to revisit Obergefell. He made it abundantly clear that he wanted to bring that back up. So they're looking for a case. This probably won't be it unless it wouldn't be this case. I have the appeals court's decision sitting in pocket over here, but it won't be this case, but they're looking for one. And the other thing about the Supreme Court is we're settled with this asshole for another 4 years, and we better hope that none of the 4 liberal justices croaks or resigns. Bryn Tannehill said back in 2018 that we were headed over a cliff, and she was right. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Because of course we are. We were always going to be here. No matter how much we beat the drum and said, hey, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. This is the direction things are taking.
I think I was saying last week, I've been banging this drum since 2018, really loud. Ripped off my cloak of anonymity and started saying, hey, please start now because what's coming is bad.
This is
it's bad.
This is as good a time as any to revisit. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. To revisit the illiteracy of the people on the other side that we're dealing with, though, because once again, as our thumbnail for tonight's show is because I can't get enough of the transgender mice meme. I think it's hilarious, but
it just never stops.
This is from the Economic Times, and they actually went and pulled the research this time. Last time we didn't have all this research information. I did know about this right here, the androgen effect on the reproduction, and some of this is they are mice that are being treated with hormones and then being tested to see how they respond to other medications while they're on the hormones. So to that extent, they are transing the mice by giving them I guess they used to call cross-sex hormones, but giving them the hormones to make them develop and then to test how they respond to other types of treatment, which is important in how we do all medical treatment, right? The group that they're citing here is the White Coat Waste Project, which is it's like a PETA. Like a PETA group, except for they specialize in government-funded lab animal research with lab animals. So, I mean, a case can be made to get rid of animal testing, but they can't sit here and pretend that only animal testing for trans people, for medications for treating trans people should be the only ones that are banned. How messed up is that to go to like someone to like just straight face be like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to take this demographic and I want to make sure that we specifically don't do any kind of research into negative medical side effects that they could have during their treatments.
We've got some stuff popping up in our Discord and other news. Winter Sunshine is posting some stuff that apparently the White House is pushing back on the confusion about transgender and transgenic mice and stuff. And
yeah,
so
well, doubling down rather.
They're doubling down on their whole thing. Yeah.
And so Winter's been providing some context to some of their claims and what the studies actually mean. But also, quick reminder, while things that are in the context of gender affirming therapy or something like that may have something to do directly with trans people, gender studies, and so forth, HRT was originally created for cis people.
I think you're crackling a little bit, Carly.
And a lot of these studies are designed to apply to cis people. They just happen to involve,
of course,
androgens, estrogens, whatever the case may be.
Right. This is HIV treatment right here, right? The very first one, one of these high spenders, HIV, and then you got steroids, human steroids. That has nothing to do with specifically transgender. That's just people on steroids. That's 2.5 million of this. More testosterone therapy for testosterone and breast cancer patients. There is some, there's gender affirming hormone therapy right here affects the microbiome of mice. So a study about how gender affirming care affects the microbiome, which is important stuff for us to know.
Right, and there are many treatments for prostate cancer that involve hormone therapy as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Let's put it this way: the people that are doing this aren't doctors, and they're not scientists, and they're just wacko, ignorant, illiterate louts.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to try to just ban hormones for everyone, period, because where I work, every single woman is on hormones, whether it's birth control or whether it's menopause symptom reduction or whatever the case may be. Several of the men are. Some are on doses to treat low T, some are on androgen reduction to treat male pattern baldness. So many people are involved in hormone control for so many reasons, and I'm the only trans person there. So like, if they try to ban it out of a workforce of, let's say, 50 people at my place of employment, at least 30 will be furious.
All right. Yeah. And then asthma research, reproductive research, it's hormone, just any kind of research involving hormones. They're now saying is like transgender mice research. So anytime that you give a lab animal hormones that are human sex hormones, it is now making transgender mice. Apparently,
insulin is a hormone. Human growth hormone is a hormone. Let's see, what else is a hormone? Adrenaline. I mean, they're again illiterate pricks that don't understand what they're even talking about.
Yeah. All right. And then another thing I wanted to pull up and bring to people's attention, because this doesn't got I don't think this thing has much legs. I really don't, but it's still scary that this is something that's actually getting pushed through or like getting proposed at all.
Well,
Houston
it's getting headlines, and that's the point of it.
Houston lawmaker, I'm giving it headlines right now. This stuff's scary to me, but Houston lawmakers proposes bill that could charge transgender Texans with fraud, and it's kind of hits close to home because I don't know. I mean, I'm residing in the state of Texas, so this is scary for me personally. Under House Bill 3817, Texans could be charged with gender identity fraud for identifying as a sex different from the one they were assigned at birth.
Well, I'll tell you, it's things like this that would have made me root for Santa Ana back in 1836.
Texas. It's always got to be Texas. Last year, the state of Texas barred transgender residents from changing their sex on their state-issued driver's licenses and birth certificates to match their gender identity. Now, a Houston area lawmaker wants to make the mismatch a crime punishable by prison time. Do we know anything about Tom Oliver? You're always on the pulse of these things. What do we know about this guy? State Rep Tom Oliver.
I know absolutely nothing about that dude.
Yeah, he's a fresh one for me. I mean, he's a state rep, and there's
so
many state rep, 50 fucking state. We can't know everybody.
Right. No, I get you. Well, he filed the bill on Wednesday that would amend Texas Penal Code to create a new form of fraud, gender identity fraud. A person would commit gender identity fraud by identifying the person's biological sex as the opposite of the biological sex assigned to the person at birth. Committing gender identity fraud under the proposal would be, it sounds like they're talking more about sex again. A person found guilty would be subject up to 2 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Yeah. House Bill 3817 would add gender identity fraud to the list of fraudulent crimes covered under the Texas Penal Code's subchapter D, which includes crimes like deceptive business practices, commercial bribery, and identity fraud. Oliver's office did not respond to requests for comment. Oliverson, I keep saying Oliver's, but it's Oliverson. Oliverson's proposal faces an uphill climb to become law, as the 3,817th bill filed during the 2015 legislative session. The bill is a low priority in the chamber. It also has no co-sponsors and has not yet been scheduled for a committee hearing. Callie Butcher, founder of Butcher Legal Group, a Dallas law firm that advocates for and serves the LGBTQ community, said that while the Oliverson bill faces slim odds of passing, it's in line with other bills that would restrict transgender people's freedoms of expression. This is the kind of bill that keeps me up at night, Butcher said.
This is the act of one Texas congressman who wants to raise his profile in the news. One of the things, we can't be going after every single bill. On the other hand, we do need to make people aware of the trend, because the trend is pernicious. You get one of these things here, and one thing here, another thing here, another thing there. It's like the old thing, pretty soon it's a dollar and a dollar and a dollar. Pretty soon you're talking about serious falls in cash, and that's what's going on here.
You're absolutely right, Stephanie. I did just look him up, and yeah, he's proof of concept. The thing that you've always been saying, that once they take one step, they will take another. Give them an inch, they'll try to take a mile. So Thomas John Oliverson, he's an anesthesiologist and obviously a Republican.
He's a gas passer.
He sure is. He sure is. He homeschools his 3 children, and they're active members of the local Baptist church. Because of course he is. He won his seat in the 2016 election because it was uncontested. He ran unopposed. He won in the last election because he was an incumbent, whatever the case may be. He's anti-COVID regulations. It's all the nonsense. He wants to abolish property taxes, but most pertinently, in 2023, he put forth House Bill 1686 to ban gender-affirming care for minors. And now he's putting forth the bill to make being trans a felony.
Well, they just throw anything at the wall. See, and the whole thing is to make it seem the stuff that they really want to get passed to seem less. More.
The point is the bill outlawing gender affirming care for minors passed,
and they never stop at the kids.
Right. So that's why we bring it up. We don't bring it up, like I said earlier, I'll repeat myself. We don't bring it up because we're chasing every damn bill, but people need to be aware that this is the mission. They're not going to stop until they start losing elections because of this bullshit. And people, not the 0.2% of people in this country or in the world that are trans, people generally need to put a cost on this that isn't trans lives.
Oh. Now, was that the right one? Yeah, that's the right one. Oh, it's not taking a minute though. Anyway, this
How
bill,
big is her cock?
Oh,
Well,
You've seen her cock, right?
We all did.
shut up, Bill Maher.
How big is
Jesus
it?
Christ,
What kind
Bill.
of a cock is it? Describe her cock.
Let's see.
This asshole.
Well, I don't want to see it.
Well,
I just wanted to hear it.
Well, if I had to see it, you have to hear it. First of all, this is a 6'4" man, right?
Well, a
6'4".
trans woman.
A male.
Okay, this is what she would claim, and she does go through life as a
shut
woman,
up, Bill.
correct? Like,
But we all know Bill Maher's a raging transphobe. Well, recently he went
with a particular interest in dicks, apparently.
Yeah,
Which is, it's nice, I guess.
If you're not going to chase a bill, this bill will chase you.
Well, I wonder how big Bill. I'm actually not interested in how large a dong Bill Maher has.
He got owned in this debate, and he freaking flees. I swear he flees.
Oh yeah.
Riley Gaines needs to be sued for that.
Well, yeah.
She needs to be absolutely sued for that. And not just sued, I would love to see Leah Thomas slap the living taste out of her mouth. I would love to see that.
Well, let's see this here.
Let's talk about it. The position, look, other countries have national health services. The Democratic position is leave it up to parents, doctors. Just leave. It's not the government's decision. That's the Democratic position. What's wrong with that position?
wait, say that again?
The Democratic position, right? Joe Biden.
Well, the Democratic position in this state has been that the school has the right to hide it from the parents. that is something that is not going to go well with the average voter. And again, I'm not even a parent, and I get it.
Mhm.
So this is sort of a strange framing to be like, yeah, I want to make sure that that if a child is being abused by their parents, that they don't have any place safe to go where their parents won't find out, right? They don't have anybody safe to report it to, because you have to tell the parents if you report the abuse.
Yeah, he's doing the Mott and Bailey thing. He's well, it's not even that. It's just a straight up switch.
The straw man.
Yeah, he gets asked about one thing. He's like, no, we're going to talk about this vaguely related seeming thing over here instead.
Okay. I mean, I think the governor here used the word snitch. Now, if I'm wrong, I didn't say it.
So
I think I read that.
So there are delicate problems here. But wait, there's delicate problems here, and there's delicate problem where you have a kid, all right, who is either non-binary or trans, who feels scared at home, feels unsafe at home. Those things do happen in the world. There are things that happen in the world. But for the most part, that's not what we're talking about. For the most part, what we're talking about is a teenager who has felt that they are they have a gender dysmorphia. So what they feel like is that they
I think you meant gender dysphoria there, but
feel deeply unhappy, depression, all really rampant.
Yes,
and they go to their parents.
They feel that, and then they blame it on the thing that has been put in their mind way too much, that it may be because of you're in the wrong body, to put it probably wrongly, but that we understand what that means. Okay. Now,
and you dumb son of a bitch, if I had known about the concept of being trans when I was a kid, my life could have been different. And I wanted that for future generations of little trans girls and boys out there to know that, you know, just to know that they're normal, right? That they're part of the population. Bill wants that to be hidden from them for some reason. I don't know. Or wants them to not feel safe coming out if their parents don't approve. It's the groomer narrative. I mean, that's the bottom line to it, right?
it could be that case. When Trump said there's only two sexes, again, pendulum swinging way too far to stupidity, okay? Obviously, sex is more complicated than just two sexes. There are people who absolutely, you know, are quote-unquote in the wrong body. But when you're a kid, when even a teenager, and you're that confused about everything,
quote,
and you have no idea.
Who the fuck are you quoting, you dumb fuck? Jesus Christ. Sorry, excuse me.
It's fine. For a long time, there was like this shorthand that people used for that, right? Like, oh, born in the wrong body or whatever. The wrong my body is the wrong sex or something along those lines, which does not comport with like reality, right? Not with the actual. At least not with anybody that's familiar with trans experience.
Not everybody. Well, here's the thing: it's not everybody's narrative. Everybody's narrative is different.
Exactly.
I mean, for example, I don't consider myself born in the wrong body. I was born in a body, and I can do what I want with it. The thing is, for me, it wasn't about hardware. It was about software. I know what kind of operating system I run, and all I want to do is correspond the hardware to match the software. I like my OS. I like my girl OS. I've ran my girl OS from the time I got on Earth.
Damn right. And while we're paused, I just want to point out he's full of shit on the law, right? So Pod Save America is a product of Crooked Media. They record in Los Angeles, which means they're under California law. The law he's referring to is the same law that prohibits schools from telling parents or anyone else about a student's sexual orientation also. Because there are parents who, if they find out you're gay, if you have a son and you find out your son's been kissing other little boys in school, you might fucking kill him or drive him out of the house or whatever. It's the same law. And it's not banning the schools from telling the parents like they're trying to keep some dirty little secret. It prevents the faculty from telling anyone, not the media, not strangers on the street, not fucking Aaron Friday, nobody, because it's not the school's job to do that. The school's job is to keep the kids fucking safe. Fuck Bill.
And you're upset for many other reasons. The idea that they put it, let me just finish.
I'm not saying it.
I know. I could see you were ready. I could see you pulling back the bow.
He's like rebuking someone for not even saying anything.
The fact that they put this in their head too much, that's my thing. Should you tell a kid, look, there's a default setting for humans, male and female, but there are variations. That's absolutely true. Some people are attracted to people of their own sex, and some people are actually in the quote-unquote wrong body, and that does happen.
I don't think there's a default setting for people.
And again,
have our
it's
own
the
unique
quote
settings.
unquote, it's the quote unquote garbage here. He's making this shit up. He's heard the phrase. The phrase has been used. I mean, quite famously, who was the journalist who? It'll come to me. I can't remember her name. She wrote a book called Conundrum. Somebody in the chat probably will know who I'm referring to. Back in the 60s, she used that as a metaphor about her experience. But
Jan Morris?
Old Jan Morris. Yeah, exactly. Old as shit. This is old as shit. The guy hasn't interacted with trans people. The guy hasn't read anything about trans people. I'm sure he hasn't read the standards of care and kept up with the changes and all of that stuff. He doesn't care enough to know what he's fucking talking about. And he's got a huge platform and people listen to the motherfucker. That's what sucks. We've got ignorant, semi-literate jackasses popping off about a subject that they know nothing about and don't care to learn anything about because they're so goddamn prejudiced that they can't get their heads around people being different than they are. So keep smoking your cigar and drinking your fucking whiskey, Bill.
The amount that they emphasize this, I compared it once on my show to entrapment.
So
see, there you go.
I disagree.
He didn't even say anything. He just snuffed at it at the calling. Bill's gonna do the groomer narrative, right? Listen.
I'm sorry, is that not the end? Is it about entrapment at a period at the
Can I
end?
explain it?
Yes,
though?
explain. I mean, we all get it, but yeah, explain it. Entrapment.
I don't think everybody does get it.
Okay, explain it.
Okay. Well, what is entrapment? Entrapment is when you suggest something to people that they weren't ordinarily going to do. I used the example of after 9/11, the FBI got caught basically entrapping some people, which is what they went to people who were, excuse me, I'm not done.
All right, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. Honestly, that was rude. That was rude. That was rude. Bill, finish. You're explaining how being trans is like being recruited into Al Qaeda.
Well, that's good. And
absolutely, 100%
glib.
Stupid and glib.
It is.
Yes,
because it's not true.
Right.
And you didn't even let me get through the.
You're right.
And now I got to go.
You're just gonna leave? We're in the middle of a debate.
Yeah. No. Okay. I'll finish this. Entrapment. Like, okay, so they go to somebody.
God,
they go
what
to
an
a group
asshole.
of guys. They did this in a group of poor black guys in Miami, and were unhappy with America. And hey, wouldn't it be great if we blew up the Sears Tower in Chicago? And these guys didn't even have a gun. And it's like, yeah, I hate America, or I got problems with America. That does sound kind of cool. And hey, well, we can get you the explosives. That's entrapment. Okay. You put an idea in people's heads that wouldn't have been there otherwise. Do I think in most of America they did that in schools? I don't. But I think
by telling kids that trans people exist is entrapment. Just to keep this.
It's not like kids don't get the picture that trans people exist either. I mean, some of us knew we were trans when we were kids. I mean,
well, I think John Lovett nailed it when he's like, okay, Bill, go on. Tell us more about how being trans is like being recruited into Al Qaeda. He's painting this picture like not only is it a crime, but it's like one of the most intense crimes with huge body counts. And being trans is one of the most evil things a person can do. But also,
yeah, go ahead.
Why don't these people all just say, yes, I'm a transphobe, and be on their way? See, that's the
Right.
thing.
That
Can they
would be
be?
honest.
I think that's all these transphobes. Be honest about it. Don't. I mean, I can take the
think
fact that you're a transphobe.
Mm,
I can take it. See, I like my bigotry uncut. I like it
There you
100
go.
proof and
Yeah.
uncut. If you're gonna, hey, if you're telling me get your black ass out of my town before sundown, fine. That I can hang. No, see, no, but I respect that. See, I respect Bull Connor, Jim Clark bigotry. Not this. Oh, it's
We're
about
talking old school there, girl.
it's about
That's
fair. It's about fairness. It's about safety. It's about protecting women. Bullshit. This is about the fact that transgender, and this is something I want to tell cis people. Cis people, the real problem that we have here is not about fairness, safety, protecting the kids, medicine, or nothing else. It comes down to the fact that a lot of you need to unpack the fact that you're just uncomfortable with trans people. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
how those people move through the world. If they move through the world, trans feminine, trans masculine, non binary, whatever it is, you're uncomfortable with it. And we all know rule number one of cisgender people: I will allow you to exist until I'm uncomfortable. When I'm uncomfortable, you must go. And that's what this all comes down to. And it's time that one, we get honest about it. Number two, we start unpacking it. Because, for example, I shouldn't have to be told I can't do something or play a game I love or participate in a sport because you're uncomfortable if I happen to win or do well that day. That's what all this is about. This is about nothing else. Y'all don't care about the children. If we actually cared about our kids, why don't we have some significant regulations on guns so that we don't have another Newtown shooting or another Uvalde? Let's think about that. If we really cared about kids, if we really cared about America's standing in the world, we wouldn't have basically told a person fighting a country that is invading him, you're ungrateful and take a hike. If we really cared about competitiveness, we wouldn't be buying all Amazon crap from China. Come on. So we need to get honest in our society today.
I gotta just brief anecdote. If kids didn't know what trans was, especially trans kids, I just want to say I was born in 1953. At the age of 3.5, I told my mom I was a girl. That didn't come from anywhere but inside me. And it wasn't said with a whole bunch of fucking language that hadn't even been written yet. It came out in the words of a 3.5-year-old child who corrected her mother when she said good boy and I said no girl. Now that's, you're not going to, the phenomenon of being trans, being a trans person, being a trans child, being a trans adult isn't going to go away because it is part of being human. It is a different way to human. And it's part of people's entire makeup. The only thing that's accomplished here is creating a class of people whose humanity is utterly dismissed. And that's what's pernicious about this.
Yeah, it bears repeating. It has to be insisted upon, in fact, that it's easy to brush all this off and say, oh, it's an idea given to these people from the outside, except we were coming up with these ideas before there was any communication about these things. And also, if the ideas can be inserted from outside, then there shouldn't be any of us because we're bombarded constantly with be straight, be cis, be hetero, be all of this normative crap all the time. And those ideas sure as fuck didn't take. What I was getting at earlier, The second point is if Bill was saying the same thing about gay people, it would become apparent how absurd this bullshit is. Oh, you just got the idea of being gay from outside.
Well,
it wouldn't have come to you naturally. You're being
let's let John
entrapped
respond,
into it.
John's response is where it is sort of along those lines. Here,
in enough of them, in enough far left places, they did constantly have this idea in the minds of children that maybe you're not in the right body. I mean, the New England Journal of Medicine advocated for taking sex off of a birth certificate. I believe it was like you're assigned sex.
Assigned sex at birth. Yeah,
you're assigned.
I think that's right.
I was assigned it by my dick. Okay, when I was born. Yes, and again, to tell kids it doesn't always have to be and isn't.
No, you weren't, because there's people that have dicks that are.
Well, fortunately, he grew into a gigantic dick.
Yeah.
Always the default setting, but that's a different mentality than they put in the minds of kids. And that's why this debate goes on. And the fact that you think, or a lot of people on the left think that even if you just have this debate, it makes you a bigot, you just have to roll over. You asked about the Biden administration. That was their position. If you even question this, you're some sort of a bigot. And this is new science, and it has to do with children, and it's not going to look good in the future, that position.
Can I just respond to something?
Now you can.
Now I can respond? All right. Can you just
okay, here we go.
All right. Let's just there's a lot. You definitely said your piece.
Just say your bullshit while I'm in the bathroom.
Just stay for 1 second.
Okay, I'm kidding.
Unbelievable.
I'm kidding.
All right, no. Okay. A lot of things there. First,
he's not kidding. He's actually a dick. He's actually wanting to get up off the couch and leave, and he eventually does once John makes this point here. So thank you, ladies, for sticking with me. I promise this is a payoff.
Oof. This is going to sound confrontational. For a long time, people said, older gay people are recruiting kids to be gay. And they wouldn't really be gay. It was they were being recruited, they were being groomed, that they were being drawn. That was their conservative position. The Christian right position for a long time was the reason you didn't want to have gay teachers is they're going to recruit. That the gay lifestyle is going to look so enticing and so exciting that it's going to bring these poor defenseless boys, they mostly boys, into the gay lifestyle and destroy their lives. But of course, that wasn't true. Really, all gay teachers were an example, right?
Yeah.
Look, there are a few examples of people getting older and realizing that they shouldn't have transitioned. That happens. It's real. That's real.
Yeah, more than a few.
But there are also really important surgeries that people get for their heart, and they go wrong, and somebody dies. And nobody says we must stop the cardiologist. No one says we must stop the surgeons. We say, let's.
That's your analogy?
Well, my analogy is only that. Wait, let me finish.
I'm just
finish.
Yes.
Is it my turn to talk?
No.
It's closer than fucking Al Qaeda.
And what you say is, let's make sure that this version of it is being practiced well. We don't get rid of the specific surgery. We don't throw out a whole field of medicine. We say, let's make sure we're doing it in a way that's healthy. The science, the research, all right, makes clear that yes, there are exceptions. Yes, there are people practicing it in ways that maybe go too far. But for the most part, study after study shows that gender-affirming care saves. Wait, I'm talking. It's my turn. I was so quiet for so long after I interrupted a few times. But once I stopped talking, boy, I was good at it. And that gender-affirming care saves a lot of.
He really didn't interrupt until Bill implied that he was about to interrupt before he even said anything and made him say something. Anyway,
and the truth is, we talk about these edge cases, talk about athletes, talk about locker rooms, but for the most part, what we're talking about is a very small group of people that just want the opportunity to live and express themselves. And there is a war on that group of people from the right to make salient extreme cases, edge cases, not for the purpose of stopping those, but for doing what the Trump administration is doing entirely, which is stopping all gender-affirming care altogether and making trans people fucking nervous when they have to pee at the airport, right? Which is the end result of all this.
Of course, that's awful, and I agree with all that, except the part about the studies. There was a very big story this year. It was in the front page of the New York Times. A woman, I forget her name, and she...
Hillary Cass
had done like it was a 10-year study, did not release it on purpose because she said it would weaponize.
Oh, never mind. He's talking about he's talking about a different study. Hold on.
The argument from the other side. So in other words, it came out not the way you wanted the study to come out.
Yeah.
Not what you said. That it's all the studies show that. No, it is a mixed bag. That's true.
Okay.
Some people, yes, it's the right thing. But to take that risk at that age before you know shit about anything, yes, sometimes.
Does he not know how peer review research works?
No, he doesn't. So quick refresher for everybody. The study he's talking about was a puberty blocker study. The results were that the puberty blockers did not cause a increase in mental health. They prevented a decrease in mental health, which is what they're supposed to do. But since they didn't create an increase in mental health wellness, that could and would have been weaponized by the very assholes doing all this bullshit right now.
Thank you, Ember.
Sometimes it's pretty obvious that this should. It's a very hard call to make. And again, this was a very long study, very thorough, and they wouldn't release it because it came out with the wrong conclusion.
But the reason but because it is a hard question, because it is a serious question.
Right.
It is a personal question. I don't want Donald Trump deciding.
How does Bill know about it if they wouldn't release it?
I want parents and doctors.
You just said parents can get shut out.
Well, I don't think parents should get shut out. There are rare exceptions to that. Look, we all believe that parents should have decisions over their children, but we also recognize that some parents do such a bad fucking job that the kids are in danger. That happens outside of trans issues. That happens all the time. It's terrible. Some parents are fucking terrible. Somehow the fact that there are terrible parents in the world gets erased on these questions. Do I think that schools should, as a baseline, be keeping a secret from parents? Of fucking course not. No one thinks that. No one thinks that.
Apparently that's not true. People do think that. And there is no...
And that goes with gay kids too, Bill. And he won't say that part. He won't say, "Oh yeah, this is gay and trans kids that are affected by this type of legislation." Because not only does a teacher have to tell you if your kid is trans, they have to tell you if they're gay too. So it's just a whole civil rights issue that we wanted to be settled back in the 80s, right? It's almost over. Thank you for sticking with us, Ember. I know it's getting late past your normal time to leave.
I'm half pumpkin already. It's fine.
No perfect answer to this. It's as many naughty questions, the least bad answer.
And the least bad answer is to not let the government decide from above. It's just to leave it up to people and parents and the kids and the doctors, right? You want the government to ban gender affirming care for kids?
You want to lose every election? Just keep coming down on the side of parents coming in.
Who gives a fuck about elections? It's like, if you don't appeal to the Nazis, then how will you win? If you don't give the Nazis some, maybe they don't want black people to be able to vote anymore. If we just give them that, then we'll win some elections. If we run on that platform too.
Yeah,
Look,
I mean,
you've got to stand for something. All right, people don't vote for people that don't stand for something. And what Mara's saying is, I'm voting Republican. Bully for you. You just go right ahead and do that, and guess what you get? You get tariffs. You get absolute bullshit health care policies across the board, not just for trans people. That's what you wind up with, and you're willing to fucking sacrifice the republic that was established in 1780, that was written down and established in 1787. On the basis of 0.2% of the population, because you are so fond of your dick being the entirety of your fucking identity. You jerk. All right.
Second, in a who gets to decide what goes on with my kid contest.
First of all, I'm not talking about winning or losing. I agree with all that, but I'm just talking about the issue itself. What did that card say?
Can I take this one home as a souvenir?
I'm
going to put it in my scrapbook.
Let me see if I hit all my points that I wanted to make about
this.
Boy.
Like they don't even see. Couldn't they have started? It says, "My guest this week is something else political content." Senator Bill Maher. Bill, couldn't they have started this on the next card? Don't you think that word "Bill" should have been started on the next card?
No,
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble.
Let's not. You guys go. That's it. You're just leaving.
Yeah, I'm just leaving.
Bill Maher, everybody.
Thank you.
He just leaves. There's more to it, but I guess this is where they cut it off. I've seen extended versions of it, but that's where it cuts off. But Bill does get up and just walks off.
Yeah, we do need cis allies asking people like Bill Maher those questions. We do. We need them out there. We need the Forrest Fell guys. We need this guy. We need people to make a difference and to have their voices out there, because our voices, where they go. Please help us, because you're next.
And
I want to say I don't know if John Levitt is, or if he's queer or not, if he's part of the LGBTQ or not.
I don't know, but he had the cojones to call out more, and more people need to do that.
Oh, sure.
People need to call out Rogan. People need to call out. People need to stand for something. That's how you get votes.
Yeah, he's been part of Crooked Media since 2017. He's a former Obama speechwriter. So I don't know what he personally is, but we do have a pretty good clue of where he stands, what his values are. And I'd say that matters quite a bit more.
Well,
again, people that are willing to sacrifice the republic on the backs of trans people because they're out and out bigots, people willfully misunderstanding trans people. They're not They're not good folk.
Come on, they're not misunderstanding. They're not
You're right,
misunderstanding.
Carly. I'm being as charitable as possible here, but
Well,
you're right.
I'm
They're
done
not.
with. I'm going to just tell you I'm done with charity. Cis people are just going to cis, and transphobes are just going to transphobe. It's just the way it is. And that's not to say that there are no cis allies. I know 38. I know at least, no, actually, I know at least 50. The owner of the football team I'm proud to play for, the coaching staff, and 39 badass cisgender women who on April 26th I will hit the field and go to war with. All day, every day. No matter what the Trump administration says, no matter what some politician in Washington says, you will not stop me. And you're right, we do need our allies, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of people out there who are perfectly okay. And they're not just Republicans, they're Democrats, as Gavin Newsom has shown, and many other Democrats. And that's another thing. If you're a Democrat who blames me and mine because of November, understand something. You are the reason I don't vote Democratic. You're the reason I'm not active with your party. You're the reason why I left your party. Because I realize that that the Republicans are the far right, but you're the center right now. You've moved yourself so far. You've moved yourself so far to the right, and now you've got Gavin Newsom doing a Keir Starmer routine, thinking that's going to help him win in 2028. You took a person who is very much a mainstream Democrat, and you turned me into a Marxist. I
Hail,
want you to think
comrade.
about that. Because the fact of the matter is, we need fundamental change to get through. That we need fundamental change in this society. And to be honest, what you're seeing in Washington right now isn't it. And you saw that at the State of the Union. When you saw an opposition party basically sit there thinking you're going to hold your little sign. No. Y'all should have done what Al Green did. Or at the very least, get up en masse or turn your back to him or walk out. Have your own alternate thing like Reverend Barber from Moral Mondays did, which was a very beautiful thing that he did. I watched them both. And that's what's going to take. It is time to stop being the resistance and start actually resisting.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Carly. All right, now this is the time of the show where Ember usually dips out from the live broadcast, and I retired back into the
shadows,
to the producer's booth. But unlike Ember, I will return at the end of the show with Carly and Steph to wrap things up. But Ember will not return. But Ember will go and join you, yes, you viewers, in the side chat for just a few minutes before she dozes off. So, and don't pretend you're not going to be in the side chat. You're always in the side chat.
It's already open.
Yeah. So, we do have another Ember segment, a pre-recorded segment coming up right after this, though. So if you haven't got enough Ember yet,
that's right. More. You get past Ember in your immediate future. Subscribe.
Yes. That's how we roll up in here. All right. Are you ladies ready for some good news?
We need it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's have
stuff
it
on this, don't we?
Bring the good news, please.
All right, here we go.
I'm still here for my younger self and for every kid out there like me.
I'm still here fighting for trans awareness and human rights.
I'm still here to help build a bigger and stronger community for my trans brothers and sisters who come after me.
I'm still here for trans youth and for LGBT youth.
I'm still here to remind people like me that their future is just as bright as they want it to be.
I am still here for my patients in the rural parts of this country struggling to find queer and affirming providers, my younger self, and for my child's future.
I'm still here for everyone who came before. They never gave up, and neither will I.
I am still here for my younger self.
For my younger self.
For my younger self and the future generations of queer and trans youth.
For queer and trans youth.
For queer and trans youth.
I'm still here to celebrate the real me.
I am still here for all my Southern queers, for all of my current and future patients.
I am still here for the trans kids that never got to grow up. I'm still here for my daughter. I'm still here for future generations.
For future generation.
For future generations.
I'm still here for trans youth in Florida. I'm still here for my queer siblings.
I'm still here so that I can be the mentor for others that I really needed.
I'm still here to dismantle injustice. I'm still here because there's work to be done.
I'm still here to inspire and validate those who have fought so hard to bring acceptance into our lives.
I'm here for the trans and queer youth who are looking for help along the way.
I'm still here to help destigmatize, to educate.
We're not going anywhere. We're here and staying here.
Folks, we're still here too. We were born out of necessity and we stay committed to providing affirming, accessible, and life-saving healthcare for our LGBTQIA plus community. Let's show the world that no one can erase our existence, our resilience, or our pride. We're not going anywhere.
A few days ago, one of the organizations I volunteer with held a conference call about the state of trans healthcare in the U.S., featuring rock star journalist Aaron Reed of AaronInTheMorning.com, Folks Health VP Haley Everhart, and clinician Kate Steinley, a member of the American Telehealth Association. I've edited the call down for time and relevance, removing things like lengthy introductions and interjections, such as informing latecomers of where to post their questions. This call does cover a lot, so feel free to watch back if you need to take a note on a particular item. With that said, let's see if we can find some good news.
Aaron, I will kick it over to you to start. You've been tracking all of this in real time. Can you give us, whatever that looks like in today, a bit of a lay of the land? What's been happening, and what's some of what we're seeing come down from the administration?
We are seeing attacks on transgender healthcare, with the executive order that banned gender affirming care under the age of 19. We are seeing passport restrictions in several places. We are seeing attacks on teachers, where there's an executive order that says that if you affirm transgender students in your school, they could be targeted. And we are seeing attacks on transgender people in the military. Now, what we're also seeing is changes in rhetoric. So, many of you remember the military ban, for instance, of 2017, and in that ban, the stated reason was because gender affirming healthcare is too risky to give to troops, and we don't want to do it. However, we in the current ban that we just saw, the stated reason is actually because transgender people are inherently dishonorable, disloyal, and untruthful. And so this escalation in rhetoric has been a big deal. We've also seen, and this is something that I think is going to touch all of you in a very particular way, the sort of mass removal of the word transgender from all government websites, but not just government websites, nonprofits that get federal grants, NGOs, even organizations outside of the United States that depend on federal money and federal support. And one problematic thing that I'm seeing, and many of you, if you read my work, you'd be aware of this, is overcompliance. I have spoken, I attended the ACLU's press briefer on these executive orders. They are not self-enforcing. They are glorified legal memos. There's no statutory authority, for instance, for the things to be done that it says the executive orders will do. And so, unfortunately, even with that, we are seeing organizations strip the word transgender from their own documents. So, for instance, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children did this. We saw all resources for transgender people in that center removed. And in fact, in that center, they were told that they have to dead name and misgender their transgender missing posters for missing children. And like, that doesn't even help. Like if you are, you know, the stated goal of this is like protecting the children, but you're not going to find transgender youth by not using their name, by going by pronouns that they don't go by anymore, by, you know, posting pictures of them as they were a long time ago. So that's a big, broad view. Each one of these sectors has a lot of litigation going on right now. There are court hearings. For instance, the under 19 ban was just overturned, well, just blocked with a temporary restraining order in Washington, Oregon, and Minnesota, as well as in the PFLAG case in Maryland. And so we are seeing some victories. The anti-DEI executive order that has resulted in like the global gag rule on transgender people, that is also blocked. It was challenged by the NAACP as well as the, I think, Transgender Law Center. So there's a lot going on, open to talk about any of this. And yeah.
I wanted to ask you, since you've been talking to so many people, as you mentioned, these executive orders are not law, and yet we're seeing dramatic impacts to care, to how people are talking about trans people, to the resources that are available to trans people. Can you explain what you see happening? Why?
I think that when these executive orders came out, it was sort of a shock and awe campaign. And it had that effect on a lot of organizations, even organizations that have no exposure whatsoever to any federal dollars. I have seen them, you know, uncertain as to whether or not they could comply or whether they should and like what they should do. And that was the intended goal of this. I've been critical for those of you who read my work. I've been critical of organizations that do this because it doesn't just affect that organization. It affects everybody. It's one thing for the government to remove the word transgender from all their resources. It's another for children's hospitals to do the same. It's another for general hospitals to do the same. Then whenever we start to get to like nonprofits and even LGBTQ resource centers that receive federal grants, removing the word transgender and gender identity, where are you going to see that word? Right. Like it becomes a word that you have to whisper hushed around in public. And you know, I've spoken to people who have made those decisions, to people who are on the boards of some of these organizations. I've spoken to some of the CEOs at these organizations. And one thing that I say to them is that eventually you're going to have to draw a line. Like they're going to continue to erode on this issue. For instance, the next step is going to be PrEP. You know, we see attacks on HIV prevention. And, you know, some of these organizations were established around HIV prevention. And so my question to them is, what do you do whenever it's not transgender youth, whenever it's transgender adults? Or what do you do whenever they say you've got to remove all PrEP from your website? What do you do whenever it's birth control? Like, do we expect hospitals that receive federal dollars to remove all references to birth control, for instance? Like, these are the things that can come under attack the exact same way. And given that these executive orders are not self-enforcing, that they are not backed by statutory authority, the best way to handle them is to confront them up in front, not to just allow them to sort of chip away. There's a book, I don't know if I do, on Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. The very first page of this book, do not obey in advance. And it specifically says that people who try to guess what power wants, and they go that extra mile, the people that overcomply, are the people that teach power what it can do. You're teaching them that if they do something, it doesn't even have to be backed by a law. If they do something, if they say something, then people will follow. And that paves the way for much worse. And I think that's the point that I made, and they understood that.
This obviously sounds and is horrible. Kate, can you talk about what this is like for trans people? You know, we at Folks have tens of thousands of trans patients, and you personally have cared for thousands of trans people. Like, tell us what we're seeing right now.
What is happening in the political, regulatory, and just cultural landscape, where it is a constant, as Aaron said, chaos and confusion, and overwhelming number of stuff that is going out there that is directly attacking people's bodies, lives, the way they interact, and the feelings of being unsafe, the feeling of just being isolated, the feelings of hopelessness, We're seeing, in terms of the patients that we see, higher acuity, more suicidality, hopelessness, isolation. We saw that increase in anxiety even during the election year when there were campaign ads that were directed towards people's identities and targeting trans people specifically. And now we're seeing this proliferation of executive orders and bills that are actually affecting it, right? So before it was just the crappy stuff that's on campaign ads, and now it's real.
I should remind everyone here that Kate is a clinician, so isn't as aware of the preceding waves of anti-trans bigotry driving unprecedented volumes of legal action we saw in the years leading up to the election. From her point of view, we passed a critical milestone, and all this stuff we've been watching build up for years suddenly sprang onto her radar all at once. I say this partly to explain why she seems to be operating as if all this codified hate was something new in 2024, and partly to point out that for a lot of Americans, the ones who weren't impacted by discriminatory laws and so never noticed them before, hate's perspective is the American public's perspective.
Some people were getting care at some of these locations that have taken those preemptive following of executive orders and then can't, or again, are worried that they might not be able to, that threats of government funding being withdrawn. So I think that ability, for a community that already has not had, that has, let's call it this way, substandard, much more than substandard access to care, to quality and excellent care. They are now worried about even losing whatever access they did have. The impact to mental health is real for this community.
Erin, can you talk about some of the state responses?
I will say that there is some good news in that we have seen a sort of run of positive lawsuits for transgender people. This comes after a pretty negative period for around 3 months in the lead up to the election. What we are seeing right now is in Oregon, Washington, and Minnesota, there's a temporary restraining order on that under 19 care ban. I believe Colorado just joined that case, and a couple other states may have joined that case as well. In Maryland, the PFLAG case also challenged that same exact rule. In both cases, judges have ruled that, at least for now, they cannot take away federal funding for giving transgender healthcare to people under the age of 19. State attorneys general in, I think, like 17 states or so, signed on to a letter saying that it is their opinion that the executive orders are not legal, that they're not enforceable, and therefore all healthcare institutions in those states should continue to provide healthcare. We just had a case, temporary restraining order in the NAACP case, which is the DEI case, which also applies to the gag rule where they're removing the word transgender. There is a restraining order on organizations not being able to have their federal funding stripped if they promote DEI. That's that particular ruling, and gender ideology is the other word that gets used. Another case that just happened was on the there's another one. There's one that's currently going right now that's on the military ban. That one has not been decided yet, but I'm expecting Judge Reyes to be very supportive. The questions that she's giving make it seem like she's very well read on the topic, and it seems like she's going to rule in our favor. And we just got a major case in Montana, which is, where I spend half the year at with my wife, stating that the definition of sex law, which defines sex as binary and unchangeable and applies that to all code in Montana, so like driver's licenses and more, that law was deemed facially unconstitutional in Montana. So we've been on a pretty good run of a lot of very positive court decisions. Oh yeah, the CDC data, the healthcare data, which is obviously going to be something important to all of you. Whenever they had the sort of stripping of all information from government websites, one of the things that they stripped was one of the youth surveys, because the youth survey included a gender identity question, and that entire survey was removed. The Trump administration was ordered to put that information back up. And so they did, but they put like this big sort of like disclaimer where they're like, we disagree with this ruling, we hate everything, and here gender ideology sucks, things like that. And so we have had all positive rulings. In fact, I don't think we've seen a single negative ruling yet. The last thing I'll say is that we are working our way towards a SCOTUS ruling. That's going to probably come in summer, and that ruling is going to be on scrimeti, which is the case that determines whether or not transgender people get equal protection under the law. That will have huge impacts on everything. I couldn't tell you how many impacts that's going to have. And while I will say that, I think a number of people, especially whenever the case was going on, are skeptical that the Supreme Court is going to rule in transgender people's favor, there are two things that I will note. A very similar court, down one liberal, up one conservative, ruled 6-3 on the Bostock decision, guaranteeing equal protection under employment law. And the second thing that I'll note is that there are a couple wild cards in the Supreme Court right now that I'm watching. I think that Justice Amy Coney Barrett is actually a surprising wild card. If you ever review her decisions, she declined to overturn a drag ban. She has declined to take sports ban cases out of West Virginia. And her questioning made me think that she could perhaps rule in our favor. Her big thing was that she actually was not aware of the history of discrimination on transgender people. She actually asked a question about it. She's like, I didn't know that that was like a thing, that transgender people have a history of discrimination. Are you sure? Like, can you give me more examples? And Chase Strangio did a great job, gave more examples. The reason why I say that that's really important is because we are seeing the animus from the current administration actually infect other court cases. Like, we're seeing judges point to say, like, we just saw Justice Reyes in the military ban case, point to a whole other area, point to the Stonewall stuff that's going on. She said, like, hey, how can you say that there's no discrimination against transgender people whenever your government is erasing them from the very history that they helped create? Like, if you go to the Stonewall page right now, for those of you who aren't aware, they stripped transgender from Stonewall National Monument. If you go to Stonewall National Monument in Google and you like click on the National Park Service website, you'll see that Stonewall people fought for LGB rights. And then for Sylvia Rivera, the transgender woman who was the most involved, one of the most involved in the Stonewall Uprising, they changed that she fought for gay and trans rights to she fought for gay and rights. Like, they've just literally removed the word transgender. It doesn't even make sense anymore. And so I think that, if the justices are watching what's going on in the United States right now, the sort of ham-fisted approach that the Trump administration is taking right now may actually factor into the Supreme Court's decision as to whether they're going to grant equal protection.
Thank you for laying all of that out. Kate, as here at Folks, we serve trans people in all 50 states. So can you talk a little bit about how we're approaching healthcare and how we're looking at the landscape right now?
Nothing has changed for us in the way that we have been providing care and the access that we have for our members across the whole country. And I think that's a really key piece because, again, this misinformation and the chaos of like people, we get questions all the time from people who are worried. Did this happen in my state? Do I still have access? And so the fact that what we're doing is trying to just disseminate as much clear information about what we are doing, what we're watching, how we will pivot if we need to. We're going to do everything in our goddamn power to make sure that we stay open and active for every single state that we possibly can.
What kinds of resistance are we seeing? What's working? Like, what are some wins for us to hold on to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a lot of, it's not just all bad news right now. I'm seeing a lot of lately is actual sort of like a rise in the willingness of people to go and protest and to like demand that certain things change. And I've seen this actually have a positive impact. Let me give you a couple examples. My local children's hospital canceled care for transgender youth. They were one of the 20 or so across the country that did this. Most hospitals did not respond to the executive order by canceling care, but some did. And in our area, we have strong protections for transgender healthcare. I live in the Maryland and DC area. And so within a day, I helped organize a protest to go down to the hospital and say, we were very respectful, but we raised trans flags and said that trans youth were worth protecting. A very similar thing happened that very same day at UVA healthcare, where they did the same thing. And then within about 5 days of those protests happening, both of those healthcare institutions returned to offering care. Despite all of the anti-trans and anti-queer actions that we've seen over the last year, and especially over the last 2 months, the Gallup poll just came out where they did a study on LGBTQ identification. And America is queerer now than ever before. We have more LGBTQ people that are out and proud than ever before. In spite of everything, in 2023, it was 7.2% of people identified as LGBTQ. As of this year, it's 9.3%. That's a huge jump in a single year. And what that shows is that all of these actions being taken against LGBTQ people, and especially trans people, they're not being taken because people hate us. They're not being taken because people want us to go away. They're being taken because people accept us for the first time in a long time. In many of our cases, they accept us. And so the organizations that are behind these actions see this as their only option. They see legislation, they see executive orders as their only way to try to stuff the genie back into the bottle, to make us all go away or make us all go back into the closet. But we're such a huge part of the United States. We're such a huge part of the world. Like, we're not going anywhere. And I think that the willingness of people to come out is in and of itself a humongous victory. That's something that we should all be proud of.
In visits that we're having with patients, we are talking a lot about what does it look like to the importance of just finding spaces to connect with other people that can offer you comfort and safety and feeling loved, because there's going to be a whole lot of noise externally. So find those spaces. Also, to take the opportunity to move away from people that to stop contact with people who don't support, right? And I actually had a visit with a member yesterday who was like, I actually stopped contacting my family who is a Trump supporter, and because it was too much for me. And I think this is the time to take that self-care that supports mental health. And this is a long process. We are going to be in this for a long time. And the longevity of staying in that fight requires people to take care of themselves. And I think, again, reaching out to your trans family, to your friends. So as an ally, as people who are not trans or non-binary right now, call everyone that you know who is every day and tell them that you love them. Tell them they are beautiful. Like, do that, because guess what? Like, it doesn't matter. You can't tell somebody enough at this moment how incredible they are, because just counteract the shit that's out there.
Really appreciate you sharing that, Kate. And, Erin, I'm curious how you are caring for yourself right now, and how you would suggest that other folks in this, I mean, you're spending your days and I'm sure your nights also thinking about this, thinking about the attacks. Like, how are you taking care of yourself, and what advice do you have for other trans people and allies to, stay grounded, stay connected?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I have been spending a lot of days and nights and early mornings on this particular issue. What I will say is that, cherish the people who cherish you. I've got my 9-year-old son upstairs. I'm going to immediately after this watch Hilda with him and maybe watch Smile House or something with him. I've got my wife, Representative Zephyr, who unfortunately, because she's in the legislature right now, we cannot be with each other right now. But as soon as we get off right here, she's going to be on a little video call the whole time. Like, I put her right in bed beside me on my laptop, and that's how we get by. Find something that brings you joy that has an end point. So much of this work can feel like it is relentless. Like even if you win, you're going to have more fights, and it pushes and pulls and pushes and pulls, and it can feel like you never reach an end point in this work. And so if you have something that you enjoy that has an end point, that's just psychologically good. That's like life advice for you. So an example for her is she loves painting D&D miniatures. And she paints it and it looks beautiful. She's developed all these techniques, and then at the end she can hold it and it's finished. And what she says, I love the way she says this, and she's like, after I'm done, the governor cannot veto this. Like, it is here, it's mine. The governor can't veto it. For me, it might be hiking, it might be photography. Like, do things that have a finished product. Find those things that bring you joy that have that. I think that is something that we all need as human beings, and also for the allies in the room. Make sure that you find your lines and hold to them. We all have our lines as far as what we're going to accept and what we're going to, like, draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not going to do this. And many people might be told to do something that they're not comfortable with. And we're seeing it right now. You know, we're seeing it throughout the government. We're seeing it from government workers. We're seeing it in nonprofits. We're seeing it in organizations. And the people that are going to be the ones who protect us are the ones who are who do hold positions of power, who are in a room where they can do good in. And whenever you are in that room, like, and you see the opportunity to do good, do it. There's a story of, you know, I've been tracking this for so long, y'all. In Texas, they had in 2022 or late 2021, I'm forgetting which year, they had the child abuse stuff where they basically where Governor Abbott told all of the child protection services agents to go sweep the state for trans kids and to try to basically accuse their parents of child abuse for allowing them to exist. And there was one person who was an agent, and he went to all of those homes and closed the cases. And his stuff was not being watched. He was an agent. He has full control over like what cases are going to be open, which are going to be closed. He put his job on the line. He put a lot on the line, and he saved a lot of trans kids. You might, you know, be that person. It was a hard decision for him to make, but he made it. Be that person. Show up to community organization meetings. Whenever you're in those rooms, try to do some good.
Thanks to Folks Healthcare for hosting that conference, Kate Steinle for sharing her expertise, and of course, Erin Reed for her relentless excellence and steadfast dedication to our community. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by yours truly. And if you want to strike fear into the hearts of the rich and powerful simply by persistently existing, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
As an ally, as people who are not trans or non-binary right now, call everyone that you know who is every day and tell them that you love them. Tell them they are beautiful. Like, do that, because guess what? Like, it doesn't matter. You can't tell somebody enough at this moment how incredible they are.
Just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Nomura was able to wriggle off the hook with 1:30 to go, and now they hold a favored position. We're not going to have it. Game here is to get up to full speed. Kayard makes his move first, and he'll be going faster when the gun goes off. Go down below the line. 20. 17. 14. 13. 4, 3, 2, 1, gun! Another clean start and another good job by Dellenbaugh.
Hi there. Another clean start. Another great job by Dellenbaugh.
There we go. So, hopefully, this will not be profanity laced because this is good news, and picks up, I think, on a story that Aaron was referring to. This from Lambda Legal, posted on the 4th of March. Federal judge grants preliminary injunction against Trump's anti-trans healthcare order. We'll do the old share-a-roo. And let's see. And blow up fluate here. There we go. All right, so here it is. Federal judge grants preliminary injunction against Trump's anti-trans healthcare order. And it goes, in a victory for transgender people and their families, the federal judge has granted a request for a preliminary injunction blocking the enforcement of President Donald Trump's executive orders threatening federal funding for providers of gender-affirming medical care for people under 19. The preliminary injunction extends a temporary restraining order that was previously entered in the case and was set to expire March 5th, yesterday. Quoting the chief executive officer of PFLAG National, again, the court has ruled to ensure hospitals, doctors, and healthcare professionals in our communities can continue the work to keep our families healthy. Transgender people and their supportive parents and families are good and decent people who deserve the freedom to be themselves and to thrive. PFLAG National and our vast network of chapters, members, and supporters will continue to ensure that love leads in this fight for justice for transgender people. So, this is really great news. I'm going to put a link in the description after the show to this story and to the order itself. I'm just want to try to get on February 11th. So this lawsuit was filed by Lambda Legal and the ACLU on the 4th of February. So it took a month, but the court's gone ahead and granted and extended the TRO and turned it into an injunction against the enforcement of this outrageous policy from the Trump administration. Just very quickly, there's one piece in the ruling that I think bears repeating. And this is it. Simply put, defendants cannot use the broad nature of the executive orders as both a sword and a shield. Citing a case. Defendants, quote, citing this case, defendants cannot take a memorandum that was drafted broadly, interpreted expansively, and implemented categorically and fault plaintiffs for overreading that directive. It is clear from the evidence attached to plaintiffs' motion that hospitals across the country immediately paused or canceled gender-affirming care for youth in direct response to the executive orders. And this is something that Carly touched on earlier. So this is a very thoughtful decision issued by this court, which is, I want to make sure we get it right, U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland. And it's a 66-page opinion. I haven't read through the entire thing, but I encourage people to watch what's happening here and pay close attention. And for the Transpositions, I'm Stephanie Helms.
Senate Democrats found their spine, and it's about darn time. There were lies, damn lies, and track and field in New York State. And March Madness hits Canada. And a shout out to a team that stood up for a teammate and stood on business. Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. On Monday, U.S. Senate Republicans who believed a federal ban on transgender girls and women in interscholastic and intercollegiate athletics was marching to a winning touchdown ran into a goal line stand by Senate Democrats and Independents. With a 51-45 vote margin, the measure fell short of the 60 votes needed to close debate and force a final vote on the measure. Democratic Illinois Senator Dick Durbin spelled out his party's case.
This infringes on the privacy of girls and women and is a dangerous use of the powers of government to target children and their families. Put yourself in the shoes of these families for just a moment. Imagine being the parent of a trans kid and telling your child they are not even allowed to play on the same sports team as their friends at school because a politician said they couldn't.
Senate Republicans responded with what's been on brand for them since the 2024 elections. Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville, the bill's sponsor, took to Fox News, and the former college football coach let his real feelings about women's sports come to the surface.
We're getting to a point now where women and girls sports are getting ready to be extinct because already in states across this country, we have high school teams that are made up of totally boys participating against girls.
I guess Coach Tuberville didn't notice how last year the NCAA basketball women's Final Four got higher television viewership and ratings than the men's Final Four, or how women's college volleyball broke attendance records, and how the first appearance of a women's college title game on one of the major networks for the first time since the 1980s was the most watched sporting event of that weekend. Never mind how a Power 4 college football school filled a college football stadium for college volleyball, or that the participation numbers for women's sports, especially among young people, have trended up over the last 30 years. Coach Tuberville, you may be a man, but you can be a man and be a Karen against women's sports. Because Tommy Tuberville doesn't care about women's sports. He's just here for the transphobia. President Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday pointed out a certain Peyton McNabb. Now, she was a high school student in North Carolina. She's a college student now, who back in high school played volleyball, and because she failed to execute a dig, she accused a girl from a rival high school who's been registered as a girl in her school district every year since kindergarten of being transgender and injuring her in that game. Now let's unpack this. See, a local journalist in North Carolina broke the initial story in 2022, and it was a story of how right-wing media took an incident and blew it all the way out of proportion. Brittany Lofthouse, a reporter and founder of the Southern Scoop, discussed the inconsistencies with McNabb's story 3 years ago to this reporter.
As a journalist and everything that I have found, I cannot definitively say that a player on either team is transgender, but I also can't say that a player is not transgender. There's nothing to say either way. I understand that there was speculation or rumors as such, and the only thing that I could do as a journalist, whenever I first started looking into this, a month before any other media outlet reported on it, or any other newspaper or TV began to sensationalize it or politicize it. I looked back at the Highlands team and the Highlands volleyball team over the past 4 years. And the players on that team have played women's volleyball on that team the duration of their high school career. Prior to that, there's yearbooks that date back at that school, that date back for when a current senior at Highlands School would have been in kindergarten. And you look at those yearbooks and you look at what's available, publicly available, and you look at the names that are on the roster for the Highlands volleyball team today, and you look at the yearbooks that go back to the beginning of their elementary school career, and those players are little girls in kindergarten.
Can you confirm the child in question for Highlands that history goes back that far?
I can.
You can confirm. So that child in question, who's rumored to be, is in a kindergarten class photo through Highlands back in 2010.
Yes.
Another one of the big sticking points is none of the outlets that reported these rumors bothered to run a photo of the team or disclose how they came across what they reported. Now, McNabb and former University of Kentucky swimmer turned anti-trans activist Riley Gaines were both guests of President Trump at the State of the Union address. Gaines flew in from Minnesota, where Minnesota legislators voted down a similar measure in their state Tuesday, and Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party officials brought the petty shade. And they talked about what Gaines will never talk about in terms of being a professional transphobe. In a post on X.com, the DFL called her out as, quote, Riley the grifter Gaines, while also showing how she makes her coins. The post reads, watch Riley the grifter Gaines pocket $20,000 to praise a bill that subjects all women and girls to inappropriate scrutiny about their bodies. Instead of focusing on divisive political stunts, how about you work with us to make life more affordable for Minnesotans? I'm going to tell you something, DFL. It was petty, and I'm here for it. But of course, even Democrats have problems. Did you check out Gavin Newsom, the California governor turned possible presidential candidate in 28? The debut of his podcast, he talks to Charlie Kirk. Yes, that Charlie Kirk. You know, the Charlie Kirk that said this about Leah Thomas a couple of years back.
The NCAA is a perverted organization. They platformed a biological male who won a national championship and then was allowed in incredibly disturbing detail to be around you and your fellow competitors. And again, I blame the decline of American men. This never should have been, someone should have just took care of it the way we used to take care of things in the 1950s or 60s.
It seems that Gavin Newsom is kind of simpatico on certain issues with Kirk when it comes to trans people. Let's take a listen.
If you want to, you have an opportunity to, run to the middle and seize this mantle. Obviously, You're talking to me of all people. Yeah. So, you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness. So it's deeply unfair.
Would you speak out against this young man, A.B. Hernandez, who right now is going to win the state championship in the long jump? I can see you wrestling with it.
No, I'm not wrestling. I'm not wrestling with the fairness issue. I totally agree with you. By the way, as someone with 4 kids, I think
and two daughters, right?
2 daughters.
And I have a daughter too.
And a wife that went, God forbid, to Stanford and played on the junior national soccer team, and a guy who got into college only because I was left-handed and could throw a baseball a little bit or hit the ball for a little bit. So I revere sports, and so the issue of fairness is completely legit. And I saw that the last couple of years. Boy, did I saw how you guys were able to weaponize that issue at another level.
Not weaponize. That's
weaponize may be pejorative. You're right, but you were able to
shine a light on,
highlight it in a way that, frankly, There are not that many out. We're talking about, I think, the NC2A, what, 510,000? No, but I just didn't realize.
It's 890 medals and trophies that we know of in the last 5 years. That's a lot.
No, so let me step back, say completely fair on the issue of fairness. I completely agree.
I got to say, Gavin Newsom showing his inner Keir Starmer here. Now, when we return to Transposition Sports, we're going to unpack and decode some of the lies that we're hearing lately, while looking at a case of how professional transphobes demonized a certain trans athlete with game. That and more to come. This is Transposition Sports.
What do you say to people who say, you are hurting me? You are hurting people I care about. You are hurting my community. You are causing pain.
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
The NCAA forced female swimmers to share a locker room with Thomas, a 6'4", 22-year-old male who was fully intact with male genitalia.
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe. Leah became the first male to win a national title on the women's side. I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe. Not only were my teammates and the other female swimmers and I forced to compete against this 6'4" biological man. I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
Look, I know the guidelines for the competition, but what are the guidelines that just allowed this man into our locker room?
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
The NCAA is a perverted organization. They platformed a biological male who won a national championship. Someone should have just took care of it the way we used to take care of things in the 1950s or 60s.
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe. I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe. I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe. I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
And welcome back to Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. We're going to look at how far professional transphobes will go to sell a lie. Case in point, last weekend, USA Track and Field New York held their Open and Masters Indoor Championship meets. Now, Masters Division in track and field, the age group started at 35 years old. And there's also the Open Division, where if you're 14 years or older, you pay the entry fee, you're in the race. Now, one of the people who did pay the entry fee was Sadie Schreiner. Thanks to the NCAA's ban on transgender women in collegiate athletics in February, she can't run for the Rochester Institute of Technology. She's a Division III All-American from last year. So she's jumping into any meet that will allow her to run. And this particular meet was ran by the USATF, and those regulations allow her to run. By the way, the rules are they use the current International Olympic Committee rules that have been in effect since 2015 as a guideline for what is classified a sub-elite event. Schreiner can race in the division that corresponds to her gender identity. Now, Schreiner did her trademark events, 200 meters and 400 meters in the women's open division, and she won both. And that sent the usual suspects from corners such as Fox News, Daily Wire, Outkick to pull out pens dipped in anti-trans venom.
College-age transgender athlete wins track events against teenagers.
Screamed one headline.
Taking first place from a 14-year-old.
Screamed another. Now, here's the facts. A number of the open class entries were active high school athletes. Now that's not uncommon, especially for indoor track, which is big in the U.S. Northeast. In the women's 400 meters, it was reported that Schreiner won the event because two other competitors, both high schoolers, according to Outkick, quote, courageously decided not to race against the transgender athlete and they forfeited the race. It's a fact that the two athletes registered to compete against Schreiner, New Jersey high school sophomore Amars Hyatt and New York high school junior Anna Vitalova did not start any of their events they were entered in, including the events that Schreiner wasn't in. Now, a note about Vitalova, goes to Bronx Science High School. She's a high school All-American who's been given the go-ahead from World Athletics to compete for Bulgaria internationally. Last summer, she competed in that nation's national championship. Now, as a high school sophomore, Vitalova put up a personal best 200 meters that puts her in the ballpark of Schreiner's best indoor efforts as an athlete at RIT. But this is an example of what the anti-trans run and gun media does. They pick something that's really obscure, pin a trans person's name to it, and then make you hate that particular person and have you react in an adverse way every time you hear their name. It's the same way that the politicians do it. Look at some of the things that were said earlier when we showed you what Tommy Tuberville had to say. Now, here's another example of the lies. Jim Thune, senator from South Dakota. Here's some of the things he had to say.
Mr. President, at the beginning of February, President Trump took action to protect the original meaning of Title IX and ensure that federal funding would not go to schools that allow men to compete as women. As the father of two former female athletes, I am grateful for his commitment to upholding fairness and common sense.
Oh, really, Senator? President Trump is protecting women. Is this what you're talking about?
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the...
Now that's what makes all of this work for them, because they believe that you, the average person, will not fact check them and they can say whatever they want. However, I fact check people. Plus, I'm a track geek. And the fact is, what they're trying to sell as a protest of the track meet was really 2 no-shows of the track meet. But there's also another issue in this. Sadie Schreiner, again, Division III All-American last season, 3rd place at NCAA D3 Outdoors at 200 meters. She should have been running in the Liberty League Indoor Championships, not in an all-comers meet. She should be looking ahead to the competitions to come. She should be getting ready for nationals in March. She's already run a qualifying time good enough to stand at the Division III Indoor Nationals now. NCAA President Charlie Baker, take a tip from the Democrats in the Senate. It's time to stand up for inclusionary policy that the NCAA has fostered since 2011. If there's ever a time for you to stand up and be counted, now is the time. Senate Democrats met the moment on Monday. Hey, Chuck, it's your turn. Last up, some college sports trans joy from north of the border. Now, last month we told you the story of Harriet McKenzie, star post player at Vancouver Island University in British Columbia. At the start of the season, her VIU Mariners were taking on the Bearcats of Columbia Bible College, their rival school in their conference. There was a lot of chippy play going on against her that day, and after a game, a lot of transphobia from the CBC coaching staff, and that prompted McKenzie to make a statement about it.
The opposing team's head coach, Taylor Claggett, cornered one of our athletic staff and went on a tirade about how I shouldn't be allowed to play. Fast forward to Saturday morning, I woke up to a call from my coach who was on the verge of tears. He asked if I was okay and if I was aware of the situation on social media. After the night before his game, Taylor Claggett's brother and business partner, Kyle Claggett, had posted the following on his Instagram story. During the game later that afternoon, my team rallied together and we ended up playing our best game yet. However, it soon became evident that CBC's tactic had shifted to simply trying to injure me. Coming out of halftime, our 14-point lead was starting to grow, and unsurprisingly, CBC started to get even dirtier. In the unsporting foul, you can see here, I get two-hand chucked to the ground by number 13 without a play on the ball in sight. Then, head coach Taylor Claggett can be seen applauding in support. Sadly, situations like these are nothing new to me. Throughout my entire playing career, I've been outed and attacked by everyone from players to coaches to fans. They try to invalidate my achievements, from Player of the Year to National MVP, claiming she only won that because she's trans. Many attribute my success not to hard work and dedication, but to the fact that I am a trans woman. These people don't know my story, and they don't care to. They don't care that I began my transition in kindergarten, never having undergone a male puberty. They don't care that my testosterone levels are 1/10 that of a cis woman due to the absence of reproductive organs, placing me at a significant competitive disadvantage. They don't care. Instead, they are fueled by their shared bigotry and ignorance.
Now, when it was time for the two teams to meet again last month at CBC, the VIU players voted unanimously to forfeit both games. They called on the Pac-West Conference to investigate the situation that happened in October. Now, the VIU team made their feelings known in a letter where they announced they wouldn't be playing the games. The games were postponed by the league. Now, within the letter itself, the players had stated, all of us should be free to be ourselves and play the game we love in a supportive and safe environment. And that includes queer and trans athletes. The season's gone on and VIU just kept the beat going. They were 21-1 heading to the Pac-West Conference tournament last week, and they raced through that tournament all the way to the conference championship. And the title game was the sweetest revenge. It was VIU against CBC, and the Mariners downed the Bearcats, paced by tournament MVP Harriet McKenzie's 21 points and 10 rebounds as the Mariners took them down 69-59 and punched their ticket to the Canadian College Athletic Association Championship Tournament. The tournament starts March 12th in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I know reporters aren't supposed to root, but I wouldn't be lying if I'm saying if I didn't have a soft spot for Harriet McKenzie and the VIU Mariners. To put through such a solid effort to win a conference title and stand on business to win the conference title and head to a national championship is a big deal. The way these kids and fans of this school have stood up for a transgender woman who just wants to play a game she loves has been special to see and great to see, and a good example of the best of sports. Now, win or lose, Harriet McKenzie and the entire team, you've got an open invitation to come here to TransPositions Sports. I'd love to hear your story about how you worked through and navigated this season. I'd love to meet all of you. Also, a memo to the CCAA tournament officials. Please, please, please keep all the teams safe. Keep an eye on Miss McKenzie, and if a certain group called Rebel News brings anyone to harass her, shut them down at the arena front door and let it be known, if you're here to cover the tournament, fine, but if you're here to harass a kid because she's trans, hit the bricks, beat it. No one wants you here. And much respect to the CCAA and U Sports, the university governing bodies in Canada, for not listening to the noise and standing up to the policies that you've set. I know a certain person in Indianapolis who needs to take heed of that example. Harriet, play well. Good luck, Mariners. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay-Webb.
Hey. We have Carly back? Not yet.
Hey.
Yeah. All right.
Great segment, Carly. That was really fantastic. Wonderful
Slaying.
ending.
I love that jacket, Carly. All right. Well, I'm going to drop her back since she's not here. Oh, nope. There she is. Oh,
She is here. Look at
and
that.
She's wearing the jacket.
There we go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're right at 2 hours. That's a perfectly run show. I think that we finally done it. We finally did.
How about that?
It only took us about a year.
A year? Close to. We are coming up on a year, by the way, and we're very close to having 3,000 watch hours.
Yeah, we're getting
recognized for it. So look forward to some emojis, maybe some custom emojis, maybe some this and that, and all the other good stuff that you can do on the YouTubes. So
just keep watching us, keep pulling us up, and keep telling your friends about what we're doing. I mean, we want to grow this audience in this next year.
And we need your support to do it. Help us out with our Patreon and join our Discord, all of that good stuff. Interact with us. Let us know what we're doing well, what we're doing poorly. We need y'all, and we appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for the support you've shown so far.
If you're gonna drop hate, though, you might as well kick rocks, because we're not gonna leave that down there. Generally, if you just bring transphobia and not like constructive criticism, if you're just like scream, you'll never be
Bullshit.
a real woman or something, not some nonsense like that, and we'll just delete it. It's not worth keeping in there. If you want to have a conversation, though, I am usually running the YouTube channel side of things, and I'm usually the one responding to your comments. So I will actually have a conversation with you if you compose yourself decently. You go look. I have conversations with people all the time. I have more conversations in the community posts than I do on the videos, though. But you can change that by commenting on this video or other videos that we release and interact with me directly. Or you can request interaction with one of these gals here, and I will shoot it over to them on Discord, and we'll get you a response if it's something they're actually interested in responding to. We have a little private coffee chat that we have, and we talk about your all's posts and community and posts and stuff like that all the time. Also, when we get emojis, we're getting closer to that. I do want to maybe I don't know, maybe run some polls on what kind of stuff you all want to see as emojis, so look for that too. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight.
That's
Ladies?
all I got. That's all I got too. I'm good.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We have been the TransPositions. I think you have to hit the
All right.
outro.
I think I gotta hit the button. See everybody come back next week.
We'll be here every week.